St Paul's Brentford comedy night here with me, Andy Kind. Testing 1, 2. Lovely.
I am Andy Kind, and for the last 19 years I have been a professional comedian. I always had this desire burning inside of me to do comedy. I always wanted to be not so much on the stage as an actor, but making people laugh in front of an audience, telling jokes and things. So when I left university, and in lieu of anything viable career-wise, I thought, well, I'll give comedy a go and I'll see if it works, and it probably won't, but if it does, then that'll be fantastic. And it did work.
Good evening and a very warm welcome to St Paul's. It's really nice to be gathered here on the sunny evening together, and I'm pretty excited about the next couple of hours. Yeah, I know, right? Sorry, tell us a joke. I will in a minute. I saw Andy just over a year ago to a packed out audience, standing room only, and so I'm really delighted that he's coming tonight. And I was thinking today, the last time I went to a comedy gig was something hosted by the Labour Party, which is not the sort of normal environment that you might associate, and you'd be right to not associate it. And I was invited as a member of clergy to wear my collar, which was the biggest mistake I could have made. Because they couldn't take aim at politics, so they took aim at the church for 60 minutes. But tonight's going to be much better. So I'm going to hand over to Andy now. Can we give him a round of applause?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. This is true, I was once described by a national newspaper as arguably the best comedian you've never heard of. How about that? I wasn't sure whether to take that as a compliment, but in fairness, I haven't heard of you either, the Sunday Times, so all the best to you. Just so I can get an idea, can you put your hands up if you've either seen me before or if you haven't? Just give me an idea. Okay, so not everybody, bizarrely. That's fine. So I am Andy Kind. I've done this for 19 years. Joe, do you want to come? No one's having a coffee now. Come and sit.
What reactions do you get when you tell people you're a comedian?
And I'll read to you like I'm your grandfather. Quite a neutral reaction these days. In the olden days, people would say, "Oh, tell me a joke, tell me a joke." But I don't know whether it's... And obviously in the old days, I would try and tell them a joke because I was so keen to impress people. I'm not really keen to impress people anymore. Usually people say, oh, that's interesting. And then they'll say, have we seen you on anything? I'll say, oh, maybe. Probably not, but maybe. But I try and steer the conversation away from me as much as possible because, as someone once said, it's better to be interested than interesting, I think. Do we have any Welsh people in? Any Welsh people? Half Welsh. I never meet Welsh people. I only ever meet half Welsh. It's true. Always, which half? North. Where's your mum or dad from? No, that's from Lord of the Rings. Sorry, that's not a. It's not a real place. That's fine. I love Wales because I do obviously so much travelling and so many gigs. Wales is the most welcoming part of the UK because you drive, for instance, you drive into any town in England, there's always that sign on the boundary that welcomes you to the town. Rugeley welcomes careful drivers or something like that. But it's even better in Wales, isn't it? I don't know if you've been back recently. It's even better in Wales. You drive into any town in Wales and they always have the sign on the boundary that welcomes you to the town. And they put the name of the town in English. And then above that, they put the Wi-Fi password. Have you noticed that, everybody? Have you seen that? Isn't that amazing? It's because Welsh words look like a random collection of letters. You didn't. Doesn't matter.
You play both in pubs and clubs and churches. Do you get different reactions from those different audiences?
I think every room, every gig has a particular energy about it. People are people and people like to laugh. I think in comedy clubs, the difference between a comedy club and a church gig is that a comedy club audience is more likely to be easily turned in terms of aggression. So a comedy club audience is more cynical. A church audience or a gig in a church the energy there is a bit more fearful. So in a comedy club, you've got 2 minutes, maybe less, to show that you're funny, and then you can do what you want after that. With a church gig, you've got to spend the first 10 minutes showing that they're safe, and once you've shown them that they're safe, then you can be funny. A couple of things that you want to be reassured of. I've told you once, it's going to be funny. So you're happy now. We're all set now. We're relaxing already. The endorphins are being released. The other thing people want to know is anyone going to get picked on? No. No one's going to get picked on. If I took... Oh, is this Luke? Are you the youth worker? Oh, Luke. Oh, well, look, no, you've got to pick on the youth worker. I didn't realise he was here, but no, of course. Luke is the sacrificial lamb for the evening. No one's going to get picked on, because I know people sit at the front, oh, is he going to pick on me? Is he going to say something nasty? I'm not a nasty person. I'm not going to say anything nasty. If I talk to you, if I chat to you, it's called conversation. We used to do it before the pandemic. Do you remember? No, I don't remember either. It's all one big blur. Just so I can get an idea. Luke's turned his chair around now. That's exceptional. Well, have you been out in the sun today, Luke, or are you just embarrassed? Both? Yes, okay. Me too. So, come on, Luke, tell us about being a youth worker. What made you, did you get sacked from McDonald's or something? What was the... You didn't want a real job, and congratulations, you haven't got one. So, well done. I'm only mate, honestly, seriously, if I can break the fourth wall for a second, there's not enough youth workers around, and it's amazing that you feel called to that, so that's superb. Welcome. It's okay. If you duck, I won't be able to see you, just to let you know. That's fine. My vision is based on movement. So, Luke, is this your youth group with you? Are these the people who used to be in the youth group? And now you just hang out? No. So, Luke, who are you with tonight, mate? Who are you with? Who are you? No, I'm not, not which one of these are you pursuing? Although I'm also interested in that. Friends. Okay, and which one are you pursuing, Luke? He's looking sunburnt again. All of a sudden. Just friends. That's great. And how do you know these friends? Church. Very good. Very good. And which one of you likes Luke? I know it's awkward. I'm doing it deliberately, just to let you know. I'll stop now, though. And so, what do you do outside of what do you do outside of youth work? Play football. Very good. Very good. You didn't seem sure of that, Luke. Play football? Maybe. I cook. Do I cook? Very good. You seem like an absolute gent. And honestly, and you as well, Sarah. I'm so impressed by both of you, because I think being in ministry is such a difficult thing. It's a completely thankless job, and particularly when you have a stranger comedian turn up and just slagging you off for serving God. I mean, it's not fair, is it? That isn't fair. Unfortunately, it's happened now.
Frank Carson used to say, "It's the way I tell them." How important is delivery in your act?
Well, I think it's one of many things. I think character, as in your personal character on stage, is important. I think interaction, I don't mean banter, but the way you interact with the audience, the way you make it feel convivial and homely is important. The quality of the jokes is important. I think delivery is what separates, and the assurance that comes from, or rather the delivery that comes from the assurance of someone who's done it for a long time is what separates a good comedian from a really good comedian. Lots of comedians, anyone can write a joke, anyone can say a joke, but there's something about that prize fighter mentality, there's something about that ownership of the stage that separates a good comedian from a really good one. So I think it's not so much the way we tell them, it's the way we own the stage, which is, I think, the most important thing.
Thinking about improvisation, there's one time where you ask a member of the audience to count how many tattoos they have, and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you say, "Great, we'll do the alphabet next week."
Yeah.
So how important is that in your act?
Well, it's just something I like to do because it makes every night different, and I think, like a lot of people in their sort of late 30s, 40s onwards,
realizing these days that I probably have some sort of ADHD, low-level ADHD. So my mind works in that way. I like to join disparate ideas. So improvisation and banter and all of that, it just makes each night different. It gives it a unique feel to it, and it stops everything from feeling the same, and it stops the set from becoming a bit staid, because once you get excited by getting laughs in the moment, you actually enjoy telling your jokes more anyway, I think. So, yeah, it's all about creating that unique atmosphere.
How do you deal with hecklers?
I don't really get any. Hecklers are nowhere near as prevalent as muggles seem to think that they are. And most people are just trying to join in. So I try and, if people want to join in, I let them join in. If people are, usually in a comedy club, if people are shouting aggressive things, they'll just get thrown out. And people don't shout aggressive. I've never once had someone shout aggressive things in a church. I've had people take offence in the church. But again, it's you are in charge. You're not there to negotiate with the audience. And this is where the idea of the nicey, Christian comedian doesn't play out when you look at the people who actually do it for a living who are Christians. You've got to own the stage. You're not apologetic. The stage is your home, and so you treat it like it's your home, and you defend it like it's your home if you need to. So the post-gig time is the time to apologise or smooth things over, but the audience cannot win. If the audience turns, or if somebody gets sniffy or offended, I'm sorry, but they need to be silenced somehow, and that's the job. And you try and be gracious, and you try and avoid it at all costs, but you cannot lose the power on stage. In comedy, you have to be the one in the siege perilous. You have to be the king, the champion.
Some comedy can be quite cruel. Would you agree?
I think comedy can be quite cruel, yeah. But I think also, as free speech gets eroded and everybody becomes increasingly sensitive and self-aware, and everybody builds barricades and calls them boundaries, I think I would want to champion the artist's right to offend. I don't like cruelty. I find lots of comedy crass and gratuitous. But actually, I think freedom to say what you want is important. Whilst I would want to persuade people not to be cruel, I would also want to persuade them to be authentic to who they are on stage. The worst type of... The only thing that offends me as a Christian who does comedy is within the art form is people being gratuitous and people not being authentic to their own voice. And I think it has its own filtering system, comedy. People won't listen to something that they don't like. We're all allowed to be offended. We're all allowed to grieve over things that people say. We don't have the right to try and cancel everybody left, right and centre just because we disagree, and because we've got this desire to show ourselves as good people. It's all just moralism. So I champion the comedian's right to say what they want, and I hate it when they're cruel.
Do you ever watch Pointless? Yeah, so I wasn't on Pointless, but I did the studio warm-up for Pointless recently, because they bring in a comedian or an entertainer just to get the crowd in the mood. So I was really a bit nervous. I'm not normally nervous doing comedy, but I'd never done this before. I'd never met Alexander Armstrong. I was a bit anxious to meet him. And I'm about to go in front of the cameras and in front of the audience. And this is true, completely true story. As I'm about to do that, my mum, who knows I'm going to be there, by the way, I get a message from my mum on WhatsApp. William, you know WhatsApp, don't you? Get a message from my mum on WhatsApp that simply reads, "Dear Andrew." It doesn't say good luck. It says, "Dear Andrew, if you're reading this, it means I am now dead." Yeah, genuinely. Yes, and like you, Sarah, I would have looked quite mortified as well if it hadn't said at the top of my phone screen, "Mum is typing." Bit of a giveaway that she was still very much with us.
What difference does your Christian faith make to your comedy?
I think lots of things, really. I think On stage, I think I want to bless people. I want people to have a much better time when they leave. I want people to be happy when they leave than when they arrived, certainly. But I think in the green room, I want to listen to people more, treat people with respect, and yes, show an interest in people, and where appropriate, when talking about worldviews and stuff like that, I want to offer a story of hope and joy and peace and freedom. Those would be the keys. I think in terms of how I deal with people, I don't use deception. I don't swindle. I don't take revenge. I don't badmouth people. I don't take sides. I'm not tribal. So all of those things, which may derive as much from being an Englishman as anything else, but yeah, I think honour and humility and character are really important. And certainly, whilst you can have those things without being a Christian, I wouldn't have those things if I wasn't a Christian.
So I did this gig so I'm down in Brighton. Sorry, all over the place. I did this gig in Brighton. I get to midnight, and I thought, I'm not going to get home now. I'm not going to get all the way back to... I'm not going to get from Brighton to Stoke at midnight. I thought, the best I can do is text my mum and dad and see if I can stay with them in Birmingham. So I texted Mum. I said, Mum, there's been a problem with the hotel, and I think the police might be after me now as well. Any chance that I could stay with you and Dad? A message comes 9.5 minutes later. This message comes back. It says, yes, of course you can. She says, of course you can. All in capital letters, by the way. Of course you can. I'll probably be awake anyway because I've got terrible sciatica and your grandmother's not well and I'm worried about her. Blah, blah, it just goes on for about 10 minutes. Then she says, be careful on the motorways, Andrew. The BBC website is saying there's a dangerous dog on the motorway. Now, I should have known at the time what you guys have probably worked out already, which is that my mum is just not very good at predictive text and autocorrect. And what she'd meant to say, obviously, be careful driving home, I've heard there's a dangerous fog on the motorway. But I didn't know that at the time. So I spent the next 4 hours driving home absolutely petrified that I would stop for a coffee at Oxford Services and a flipping werewolf would just jump out and kill me. I get back to Mum and Dad's house about 4 o'clock in the morning. I've done really well. 4 o'clock in the morning. Go into the house, go into the kitchen, put the kettle on for a hot chocolate just to take the edge off the werewolf adrenaline that's been pulsing through my veins for the last 4 hours. Here in the kettle, my mum, who, bear in mind, knows I'm staying over, wakes up in an absolute state, comes racing to the top of the landing and shouts down the stairs, is that you? Yes, Mum, I said. Obviously, it's me. True story. Genuinely, my mum said, oh, thank goodness for that. I heard the kettle. I thought it was burglars. What? Doing what? Who breaks into a house and brews up? Dave, you get all the jewelry. I'll make you a chai latte. Do you want cinnamon? No, it's disgusting, isn't it? Have you got a loyalty card? Even if it is burglars, my mum's a 70-year-old woman in a flowery nightie. What are her tactics for accosting these interlopers? Is that burglars? Yes. Squirty cream on mine, please, if you don't mind. Now get out or I'll set the fog on you. Go on, be gone.
What's the best thing about being a comedian?
I think there's nothing quite like the adrenaline that you get from leaving a gig that you've just taken the roof off. I've never taken drugs, but I imagine there's no drug quite like that. And so that's amazing. Being able to do what I always wanted to do and to make money for it and from it and be able to use it, I suppose, to build kingdom or see people get closer to God. I mean, that's a huge... It's a Venn diagram of pleasure and privilege, really. And there's lots of downsides to it, to being a comedian as well, but I wouldn't swap it. I'd like to have breaks from it, and I do have breaks from it, but I always keep coming back to it because I am addicted to it.
And what's the most challenging thing about being a comedian?
The travel and the travelling, particularly as I get older and my back hurts. But yeah, travelling, not really having a proper social life, not really having a proper community, being away from family too often and for too long. Those are difficult things. Often, no, not often, but there's been seasons where I've not really known what home was. And that's hard. It makes it difficult to maintain deep relationships. You end up being a bit of a lone wolf, and the pandemic didn't help with that. So I'm probably a bit institutionalized now, and probably not very easy to get on with in certain circumstances because of that. I think the most challenging thing is that.
Does God have a sense of humour?
I think God, yes. I think God has lots of things and is lots of things. And if you look at what laughter does, laughter releases endorphins, which relaxes people. And actually, there's cases of people being physically healed of illnesses through laughter. And who was it, do we think, who invented these endorphins? So I think laughter is a gift from God. And like any gift from God, it can be corrupted and misused and abused. But when used properly, comedy is an amazing gift from God. It's there to build people up, to build that sense of community. I think when you see a room of people laughing together, you get a sense of what heaven might be like, I suppose.
My name is Sarah Guinness, and I'm the vicar at St Paul's and St Faith's in the parish of Brentford.
Now, how did you first hear about Andy?
I heard Andy at Spring Harvest just over a year ago.
Why did you decide to invite him along tonight?
Because he was really funny, and I thought it was a great opportunity to have a social night as a church, but also for the wider community. Fairly easy to organise, but just a really good opportunity to be together with other people and do something. Yeah.
And how do you think the evening's gone?
Fantastic, incredibly funny, and my face is aching with just how much I've laughed. And yeah, he's just been spot on all the way through in terms of the conversations and the people he's interacted with, and everyone's really, really enjoyed it.
Here we are. One final story. Are we okay? One final story. 5 more minutes. Let's just go for it. I'm always a bit embarrassed about the name I have for my wife. My wife's real name is Lydia, but I'm always a bit embarrassed about the nickname I have for her, Carol. My nickname for my wife is Bambi. Yeah, Bambi. You know, because she's cute and a bit clumsy, and I want to shoot her mum. So... Bambi and I, we were sitting watching Homes Under the Hammer. She turns to me, she says, technically, by the way, we're only 6 weeks into Heidi's pregnancy at this point, so 6 weeks after conception. I don't want to make anyone blush, Carol. But she turns to me, she says, I think I might be pregnant. Now, I'm not very good at assessing some things. So I panicked. I said, you sit there. I'll go and get you some hot towels and cold water. Bambi pointed out to me a couple of things. First of all, she wasn't having the baby straight away. And second of all, why had I said hot towels and cold water? Had I perhaps confused having a baby with going to a Thai restaurant, which is in fact what had happened. Anyway, I wanted to be the helpful husband, so we had to think about it. In the end, we did one of these not online pregnancy tests. I don't think that's possible even in 2020. An online survey, did you ever do any surveys? The 10 signs you might be pregnant. The one we did asked you 10 questions to gauge whether or not you're pregnant. Questions like, have you put on weight? Are you experiencing mood swings? Are you suddenly addicted to the smell of creosote and things like that? Out of 10, my wife answered yes to 7, which gave her a pretty good idea that she might be pregnant. On the other hand, I answered yes to all 10 questions and was totally convinced for about an hour that I was with child. Question number 9 was the killer. Have you missed your period? Well, I'm still waiting, if anything, so yes, I think I must be. Anyway, when Heidi was born, here's the story. When Heidi was born, there were no doctors there were no midwives, there was just me. I had to deliver Heidi all by myself. Yeah, so don't get too impressed too quickly. Let me give you the backstory. First of all, we'd wanted to have a home birth. Bambi had wanted to have a home birth, and Tom, of course I agreed with that. Of course I agreed with the idea of a home birth. When else is your wife going to let you have a paddling pool up in the living room? It's not going to happen, is it? But we've seen Call the Midwife, and when they're about to have a baby, they call the midwife, and the midwives actually turn up. Not in our life, they didn't. Now, I should point out here, the problem is not the NHS. The NHS are amazing and do an incredible job under increasingly difficult circumstances. Amen, amen. The problem here was the length of time it took Heidi to get from inside my wife to outside in the real world. Alice, our first daughter, 24 hours of labour, that's not uncommon. By contrast, Heidi's labour, at a conservative estimate, lasted a grand total total of 43 minutes. From first contraction to splashdown, 43 minutes. Honestly, Carol, first, start to finish, 43 minutes. I'll level with you, Carol. It almost took longer to make her in the first place. I just winked at Carol. I apologise for that. Anyway, I ring St Mary's Hospital, and I'm panicking at this point. I say, please, we're about to have a baby. Send a doctor, send a midwife, send Dumbledore, send somebody more capable than me at delivering a baby. The chief midwife stays very calm and says, Mr. Kine, you need to remain calm. It's going to be okay. We're sending the midwives, but I don't think they're going to make it on time because they're stuck in traffic. It's like, okay, what's a shame, isn't it? Shame you've never invented a vehicle that could get trained medical professionals from a hospital to an emergency without needing to get caught in traffic. Maybe you should invent such a machine, perhaps a van-like contraption with a sound and light show on it or something like that. She bristled slightly. She said, I know you're talking about an ambulance. Oh, do you, Columbo? You've cracked that code, have you, Miss Marple? Send one of your ambulances. Just remind, I'm panicking at this point. She said, Mr. Kine, we're sending 4 midwives. That's the best we can do, 2 juniors and 2 normals, but we've run out of ambulances, and so they're in a minibus. What? So they're in a minibus? What, are they on the way to Thorpe Park or something, are they? Is it midwives on tour? Is it oi, oi? What happens in midwifery stays in midwifery, lads, lads, lads. She says, do your best. She puts the phone down. I don't know what I'm going to do. I look at my wife sitting there in the birthing pool. I say, okay, they're not coming. What are we going to do? I don't know how to deliver a baby, Bambi. What are we going to do? They're not coming. My wife, absolute legend. She stayed so calm. She said, honey, look at me. Stop crying. Remember the breathing. Breathe. Breathe. I'm here with you. She said, listen, this is a bit of a pickle, but all we can do in this current predicament is to take ownership over the situation. We presently find ourselves flummoxed. I'm paraphrasing. She was swearing a lot more than that, but I'm trying to honour her. She said, listen, hubby, I'm sorry no one's coming, but if help is not on its way, then it really is just very simple. You are going to have to help me deliver our daughter. And friends, I rose to my full height. I looked her in the eye, and I said, no, thank you, I don't want to. You can't make me, leave me alone, you're not my real dad. I didn't know what I was saying at this point, I was panicking. The problem is that my wife and I are both Christians, so she was able to challenge me with that one phrase that you can use to embarrass any Christian at any point in time. She's sitting there in the birthing pool, she says, before you make your decision, Andy, just think about this. What would Jesus do? I thought, oh, that's not fair. How are you supposed to respond to that? You know what? You're absolutely right. You've got me. What would Jesus do? So I pretended to be dead and hid in a cave for 3 days. That was my, not my exact theology, but it is my favourite joke in the show. So grow up. Lighten up, Sarah. I said, okay, how do I help you? She said, use the TENS machine. You know what the TENS machine is, Tom? You get these pads, put them on the mum's back, delivers little shocks into the nervous system. That's supposed to spread out the pain of the labour, apparently. But I'm sorry, from a husband's perspective, that makes no sense whatsoever. I'm in so much pain with this childbirth. Tell me how to help you then. Electrocute me, of course, you fool. Give me more pain. I am woman, bring it on. At this point, Alice is only 3 at the time. She comes downstairs. Not only does she come downstairs, but she's changed out of her Peppa Pig pyjamas and changed into her little $7.99 mother care nurse's outfit. And it's 1:30 in the morning. She stands in the doorway with her hands on her hips. She says, Daddy, I'm here. Let me help. I say, no, you may not help. You're 3 years old. It's 1:30 a.m. Go back to bed. And then I realized that, ironically, by wearing this mother care nurse's outfit, she was actually the most highly qualified medical professional currently on the premises. Please, Alice, you're up. Take over. Once more onto the breach, as they don't normally say in this context. Anyway, it's a happy ending to the story, my friends. A few minutes later, Heidi was born. She bungee jumped into the birthing pool, and I got into the pool with her and Bambi, and I picked her up, and she looked absolutely disgusting. And my wife told me that was the afterbirth, which was a relief because I thought she looked a bit like me. Then I picked up the real baby, and you know, she still looked a bit disgusting, as all newborns do, but she looked beautiful as well. And I rocked her back and forth, and we call her Heidi because she's our baby, our second girl, our second daughter. And Heidi comes from I don't know if you know, it comes from the old German sort of Anglo-Saxon word Adelheid, which translates roughly into English as sort of not the son I was hoping for. Beautiful, beautiful name for a beautiful baby. And I got into the pool with my wife, and Alice stood by the side of the pool. It was our first moments together as a family of four, and it was absolutely amazing, and that will never be taken away. 1 hour later, 4 midwives turn up. 1 full hour later, they turn up with candy floss and pictures of themselves on the log flumes. I mean, they've had a cracking day out. The doorbell goes at 2:30 a.m. This is the end of the story. Alice says, who's 3 lots, she's the only one not soaking wet. She says, "I'll get it." She races to the front door, opens the door. There's these 4 very anxious-looking midwives staring down at her. My little 3-year-old girl with her mother care nurse's outfit, her hands on her hips, her little doctor's stethoscope that she's taken out of her doctor's kit on the way to the front door and put around her neck for such a time as this. She faces down these 4 midwives at 2:30 in the morning, and she just says, ever so calmly, "My work here is done." And then just as calmly goes back to bed. She's on nights, you see, so she needs to get the rest in. Friends, it's been an absolute joy. If you want to buy a book, I'll be here in 30 seconds' time. Thank you so much, all of you. Thank you very much. I have loved it. I've loved everything. Have a nice life. See you again.
It was really good. It was really funny. Yeah, it was great.
Anything in particular you enjoyed?
The realness, like it was all real, but it always had like it was all just funny. It was all about real life. It was really relatable, and yeah, it was good. I just enjoyed the whole thing.
Could you do stand-up comedy yourself?
Oh, no chance.
Why not?
I can't think on my head. I feel like you need to think on your head to be able to do stand-up comedy. It's the stories, and a lot of the time it's the life that you live as well, and you take the humour from your life to be able to do stand-up comedy. There's no chance I would be able to do that. I get too nervous.
I thought it was very enjoyable. He got the crowd involved, had some good jokes, talked about himself and his family. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
Anything in particular?
No, just generally, he was just a normal person, just talking about general life, which I liked.
Well, I liked the way that he picked on certain people, but he engaged with them very well, I thought. He didn't put anyone down, which is what some comics often do in comedy clubs and things. He was absolutely great. I'd see him again if I knew he was going to put on a show somewhere. I'd pay to go and see him again.
Could you do stand-up comedy yourself?
No, I couldn't.
Why not?
It's a special skill set. I don't have it. No, I couldn't. No. So his job is safe.
Thanks so much for coming. Did you enjoy it? Great. Let's give Andy another round of applause. I can give you. You can probably hear through the vestry. Yes. Do feel free to sort of stay for a little while, but then after a while we'll just sort of clear up and all that sort of stuff. But also, please do buy a book, and Andy will kind of come out again in a few minutes and do stay and browse and chat, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for coming.